Have you ever seen a moment so small, so ordinary, that it changed everything? A single question whispered in hunger, a pair of tired eyes meeting another, and suddenly the world stopped just for a heartbeat. Tonight, I want to take you into a story that might just remind you that miracles are often hidden in the places we least expect. The story begins on a cold evening, outside a glittering restaurant where laughter, music, and clinking glasses painted a world of warmth inside, while one young woman stood outside in silence, clutching her torn sweater against the biting wind. Her name was Aisha. Life had not been kind to her. She had once dreamed of becoming a teacher, guiding children with love and knowledge, but fate had other plans. A fire had taken her home, sickness had taken her mother, and poverty had taken nearly everything else. Now she lived day to day, barely surviving, with nothing but her dignity and a quiet prayer each night that maybe tomorrow would be better. Yet on that evening, her empty stomach growled louder than her pride. She had not eaten in 2 days, and as the delicious smell of roasted chicken and fresh bread spilled out of the restaurant doors, her heart broke a little. For the first time in her life, she lowered her head and whispered to a stranger, May I have your leftovers, sir?" The man she spoke to was no ordinary diner. He was Ibrahim Shah, a millionaire known for his towering business empire, his expensive suits, and his reputation for being cold and untouchable. He was a man who had everything but rarely looked beyond his own world. At first, he barely registered the girl's trembling voice, but then he looked down into her eyes. Something in those eyes pierced him, something raw, honest, and filled with pain that no words could fully describe. His hand froze in midair, his heart skipped a beat, and for reasons he couldn't explain, he couldn't walk past her. In that moment, Ibrahim remembered a night long ago, when he himself had been a boy living on the streets. He had begged for food outside a bakery, and no one had listened. He had promised himself that if he ever escaped poverty, he would never look back. But looking into Aisha's eyes was like looking into a mirror of his past. He took a deep breath, placed his untouched meal into her hands, and instead of walking away, he asked her softly, "What's your name?" Aisha didn't know how to respond. She clutched the food as though it were treasure and whispered her name with a trembling voice. Ibrahim didn't leave. He sat beside her on the cold steps outside the restaurant, watching her eat slowly, savoring each bite with tears streaming down her face. Something shifted in him that night. He didn't see her as a beggar, but as a human being who deserved more than scraps. That night became the beginning of a journey neither of them had expected. Over the weeks that followed, Ibrahim sought her out. He discovered that she slept in a small, abandoned shelter with other struggling women, most of whom had lost families and homes. He began to visit quietly, bringing food, blankets, and medicine. Aisha, though weak and broken, had a spirit that amazed him. Despite her hunger, she often shared her meal with an elderly woman beside her. Despite her sadness, she comforted crying children with soft lullabies. It was in her nature to give, even when she had nothing. Ibrahim found himself drawn deeper into her world, and for the first time in years, he felt alive, but their path was not easy. His friends laughed at him for spending time among the poor. His business partners warned him that charity was a waste. Even his own heart battled with doubt. Was he truly helping, or just trying to erase his own guilt? Meanwhile, Aisha struggled with her own fears. She was grateful, but she didn't want pity. She longed for dignity, for a chance to stand on her own feet. Sometimes she pulled away, afraid of becoming dependent on his kindness. Yet every time she looked into his eyes, she saw not pity but respect, and that gave her courage. At the turning point came one stormy night. Aisha fell ill, her body too weak from months of malnutrition. She collapsed outside the shelter, and Ibrahim rushed her to the hospital. For hours he sat by her side, his heart pounding with a fear he had never known before. When she finally opened her eyes, she whispered, "Why do you care so much?" His answer was simple, "Because once, no one cared for me. And I promised I'd never let someone else feel what I felt." From that day forward, Ibrahim didn't just give Aisha food or shelter, he gave her an opportunity. He sponsored her education, encouraged her to rebuild her dream of teaching, and helped her find the strength to rise again. Slowly but surely, she began to shine. Aisha studied tirelessly, her hunger now for knowledge rather than bread. Years passed, and she became the very teacher she had always wanted to be, guiding children with kindness, patience, and wisdom born of her struggles. But the miracle wasn't just in her transformation. It was in Ibrahim's heart as well. Through her, he discovered that true wealth was not in gold or mansions, but in the lives we touch, the dignity we restore, and the hope we give. The man once known for his coldness became a voice for compassion, building schools and shelters across the city. He and Aisha remained bound not by wealth or debt, but by a shared understanding that kindness can change the world. And so, viewers, the next time you see someone who whispers for help, remember this story. Remember Aisha's trembling words, "May I have your leftovers, sir?" And how that one question became the spark for a miracle. Perhaps, hidden in the eyes of a stranger, you too will find a reason to pause, to care, and maybe even to change a life. Because sometimes, miracles don't come from heaven. Sometimes, they come from the simple act of seeing another human being as worthy of love.